Hello, and welcome to another episode of Talks with the Tax Cop. So glad that you tuned in this week. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm about to hit this thing Anita Baker style, giving you the best that I got. Baby, because you know when you get to a point where sometimes you just like, what day of the week is it? How did we get to March already? Are we still in tax season? Stuff got crazy, right? But it is March 2022, and it is Women's History Month, and it is my birthday month. So I had all these grandiose plans on who I was going to interview, and I am going to keep doing interviews. But this week, we decided to do some frequently asked questions. Why? Because it just happens to be tax season, and I'm getting a lot of great questions that I'm sure other people are kind of curious about as they move forward or they get ready to file taxes for this season, or they look back on how to prepare for next year's tax season. Why did I say look back and prepare on next year's tax season? Because it's always a great time to prepare for the following tax season, right? Once you file, filing is just a review, right? Or a report of what has happened in a previous year. So when you are now done with that, March is a great time to figure out, all right, there were some things that I liked off of last year's tax return. There's some things that I know I could have done better. I don't want to get as much money back as a refund in 2023, or I don't want to pay as much taxes. How do I get this stuff fixed? This is a great time to make that assessment. So we're just going to go through. This will be a quick and dirty, hit it and quit it type podcast this week, where I just talk about frequently asked questions that I get from my clients, from potential clients, every time we go through stuff. So, of course, the first question I get all the time is, what are my prices and how do I charge? Do I charge flat fee? Do I charge by the hour? I'm not about to give them a raise. They're like, if you really want to talk to me and figure that out, come holler at your girl, right? There's ways to connect with me. I got a website. You can schedule an appointment. You can ask a question. I'll send an email and I'll explain all that. It's not that it's a secret. It's just everybody's rates are different. And I'm not about to, by the time you look at this years from now, that doesn't mean that's what my rates are going to be. It doesn't even mean that the way I do things at that time will look like how I do them now. So of course, everybody asks about fee, and I don't mind sharing my fee. Actually, I do tell them I do flat fee pricing. I do not charge by form, and I do it by a range per complexity of return. So always done that. And we also add audit protection to everyone's tax return. So then that's the next question we get. Well, why do you add an audit protection plan to everybody's tax return? I add an audit protection plan to everybody's tax return because in most cases, everybody's getting audited, whether it's by a computer, whether it gets caught up, you know what I'm saying? You submit your tax return and it's bouncing back and checking everything and making sure names and social security numbers are right. And does it match, the numbers match on the forms that were submitted, the W-2s, 1099s, et cetera. So it's a quick check. It's a quick system check. That's an audit, right? I think I've done it on social media. I've done a definition of really what an audit is. Auditors, all we're doing is checking processes and procedures, right? Making sure things look right, dress right. And if it looks odd, then it's going to flag, right? And then it's kind of like those, I wish I had a chart or something like that. Actually, I should be writing on my pad and like sharing my screen. But it's kind of like those matrices, right? So you start at the top, and if this is this, and you go yes or no. So if it's yes, you keep going down this path. If it's yes, then it turns to no, you go down another trail. That's essentially how everything works. And so, yeah, so everybody gets audited. The issue I have is that years down the road, right? I'm gonna say about 14 to 18 months, right? We go through the tax season, everything kind of closed, they get stuff reconciled. And then depending on about 14 to 18 months later, you may get a discrepancy letter, right? Or correspondence letter, or CP letter, or whatever. And when you get those, sometimes they require correspondence. And so since as an enrolled agent, as a firm that is the enrolled agent in her firm, I don't want to be charging you full price for correspondence for a fee for a return that I did. So what I do is we actually build that audit protection plan in and cover that for some correspondence, for basic correspondence. Now, if it gets deep and we actually have to go into a full-fledged resolution, then that ends up being a whole different type of engagement. And that can be talked on a whole nother day. Which leads us to our next question. Exactly what type of services do you provide? I get that question all the time. I know some people don't want to go through all my website, and I get it, but I explain it. The firm is called Total Tax Experience because we give you the experience from the time that the transaction is made, right? That's the bookkeeping, until the time that it ends up on a tax return. That's tax prep. And even get yourself in some trouble, we have the skills to be able to assist you with that and resolving that problem. That's tax resolution. So those are key critical points in the cycle, because I work with a lot of small business owners. So we give bookkeeping, we do have some minor business consultation, we actually do tax preparation, we do tax planning and consulting, where we're projecting and coming up with strategies as we move forward so that we can catch it before we get to tax season again. And we do tax resolution. That's our heavy hitter, definitely, to make sure that when tax problems come, we can resolve or work for a resolution for you and represent you before the IRS or your state comptroller in the states that we can. In most states, we can actually represent you because we are an enrolled agent. The reason why this is the case is because of for flow, y'all see that anybody can come in at any part of the pipeline. We have some people that come in for resolution and somebody else does their taxes. We have some people that come in for resolution and then we end up doing their taxes. We have people that come in for resolution and then we end up doing their bookkeeping, and then they go through the entire cycle. I get the question sometimes, is it good for your bookkeeper to necessarily do your tax returns? They know the history. So even if they don't do the tax return, it is good to have your bookkeeper available to talk to your tax pro so that they can have a dialogue and talk the numbers and make sure that they understand what's going on. Now, my small business owners out here, I need you to understand, don't put all the weight on the bookkeeper. Don't put all the weight on the tax pro, because ultimately those records are yours. They belong to you. If you pay attention to the bottom of the tax return, it tells you that you are signing this, saying that the information in the return is accurate. So if something ends up being wrong, the tax professional is not solely responsible. The bookkeeper is not solely responsible. In all honesty, the responsibility of those numbers are on you. Now, yes, as tax professionals, I've told y'all before, the IRS got our fingerprints on file. They can hold us liable, and we can be fined. In some cases, some tax pros, depending on the craziness of the mess they've been doing, can end up in jail. Massive stuff, right? But we're talking zeros and zeros and zeros, because they got to get them, Department of Treasury got to get them on, and Department of Justice got to get them on something so that they can really make a case and be like, hey, smack your hand, don't nobody else do this. So you got to keep all of that. You need to keep all of that in mind. Definitely keep all of that in mind, that ultimately those are your numbers. So for my business owners that do not know how to read a financial statement or really understand what is going on with their financials, honey, find you a bookkeeper, an accountant, or tax professional that is willing to sit down with you and educate you and answer your questions. Now, this is the other question I get. I don't know what to ask, and that's okay. Do some research or just write a list of questions. I tell people all the time, get your little notebook, write questions, and then send the questions. I'll answer them. They're not crazy. Some of them, it may just be, all right, that's a more general question that more people need answers to, so I should probably do a video. And in some cases, it is a specific question. So like, for instance, I'm thinking of a client that has some specific questions for depreciation that we're going to go into, and I'm going to record a specific video for them. However, I think about one of the top questions I get when it comes to people who are employed and have W-2s and no business on, no Schedule C, no other business on the side, the withholding question. How can I do withholding? How can I know what's going on? And so then I have some quick and dirty videos where I talk about going to irs.gov. Y'all know I have a podcast where we talked about that early on. Going to irs.gov, looking at your account, because you should know what's on your account. And then actually going to the withholding calculator. And I mentioned that briefly, but I have a full-fledged video that I recorded where I actually take people through the IRS Withholding Estimator calculator on their website to determine where stuff should be, because the W-4 has changed. That's another question, how to fill out the W-4. I did a video on that as well, because that comes back. How do I fill this form out? This form changed. It used to say 0 through 10. Like, well, I don't know the dollar amount. How am I doing stuff? That is a frequently asked question. And also for my clients that want to make the election to be that are an LLC that elect to be an S corporation. They have to fill out a form 2553. So that comes up a lot for my small business owners when we actually are on that line and we make that teeter to actually jump across the line and make that election, and when we should make the election and what that looks like. So I don't mind, for my frequently asked questions, making videos to explain some of this stuff and share on the screen so they know exactly how to fill that stuff out. And I have those in a library because those are questions that I get a lot. Those are probably my primary questions. How can I find out what the IRS knows or look at my stuff? Because I'm not sure, because I can't find my documents, right? So when I can't find my documents, you need to go to irs.gov and get into your online account and get a wage and income transcript. I always ask people to get a wage and income transcript and an account transcript, because from there, even though it's masked, pay attention, y'all, because it's not going to give you everything. It is masked. It gives me enough information to start a conversation with a client. It's some critical stuff on the transcript that gives me an idea to say, hey, did you work with this person, this person? Did you have this 1099? Did you have this 1098? At least gives me a surface level conversation to move forward and to make sure that we have all the documents. Then I said withholdings. And like I said, go in there and actually determining, y'all, I'm going to say this again, the whole purpose of taxes is to break even. And I tell, rule of thumb, that if your refund or the amount you owe ends up being around $1,000, and that's just Patrice rule of thumb. Nobody's ever said do this, but for me, if you only owe $1,000 or you're getting a refund back of about $1,000, unless you have intricate strategies, right? That's not a bad number at all. And I know nobody wants to owe. Nobody. But when you're in that mark, I'm telling people, yo, this is a great return. Like, you maximize and use the tax code to your benefit and got as much of your money throughout the year. That's an awesome thing, like absolutely awesome thing. And that can be planned for. And using the withholding calculator is only just one strategy, because there's several other strategies that can be used, but it is one that's right there to you to be able to look. So let's say it's an interesting year and you want them to hold on to your money because you may not be as disciplined, right? And you do want a bigger refund because you're trying to plan for your trip and you're using that as your savings account versus you ain't making no interest. I'm not saying, I don't know why you would do that, but hey, each his own. It's a way for you to plan for that. If you just grew up and said, I want a refund of $5,000 and I want to get it in March or April because I like Christmas in April, so be it, right? You can plan for that. And that's that IRS Withholding Estimator calculator. And then finally, for my business owners that are an LLC and they're ready to take that plunge and they keep saying, I want to be an S corporation, there's a lot more nuances and a lot more rules that come along with that S corporation election, but it's a very easy election to be done. And right now is a great time to do it. Like I said, we're in March. If you're electing to be an S corporation effective January 1st, 2022, now is the time to make that election, because you need to file the form by March 15th, 2022, which is also the pass-through tax return due date, right? So think about that. That could be beneficial for you. That's for my partnerships, my S corporations. And sometimes you really need to look at that and figure out what works best for you. I know that was like, she took us on a frequently asked question that was like, this got technical and went deep really quick, right? Let me see. What are some other frequently asked questions that I get? How long I've been doing taxes? I've been doing taxes for 20 plus years. I said that in my introduction video. If you haven't looked at that, it's an introduction podcast. For 20 plus years, I was a federal auditor, never worked for the IRS. I absolutely love taxes. And I love taxes because twofold. It is fun. It really is fun. It's addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. It's basic math. You got to know the rules. And it incorporates math, accounting, and law. And even though I'm an accountant and a tax pro, I would tell you, out of the three of those things, accounting is my least favorite. I love the rules. I love the principles. But like basic, true accounting, even though I do it like bookkeeping and understand it, out of the three, I prefer the math and the law, just because I like to know how it works. And I love to look for loopholes and figure out what I can help people learn to do in the future. My favorite thing to do in my firm is talk to my client. I love interacting with clients. Now, that also is a question that I get. Well, do you meet with anybody face-to-face? I've never been face-to-face. Like even before the pandemic, I've never been face-to-face. I've always been in a virtual setting. I may have a couple of elderly clients that I've actually went to and sat down with them, but I don't prepare to return in front of them. I get their documentation, prepare to return. I would come back to them, and then we would talk. But I do love the interaction. I love to catch up, and I love to do it after the tax return is done. The reason why is because now the return is done. Now we can get into, and I can figure out what's going on with the mindset, what's going on with the people, get to the root of what's really happening. Like I said, the interviewing and the planning part of the audit process for me when I was an auditor were my favorite parts. The reporting part, yeah, thank God for teams. Thank God we got people who can actually do stuff, right? I used to tell everybody that you ever work with me, from the time I became a team leader and then got into supervision, I'm seasoning. I don't create. I don't go and grow the ingredients. I didn't do all that. Like I'll help be a sous chef, right? I don't have none of my own recipes at all. I know how to read and use a cookbook. However, I'm seasoning. I'm the salt, pepper, paprika. That's what I bring to the situation. You gotta know what you bring to the situation. So I'll help you plan the menu. I get excited and dance, y'all. I love some food. I love a good meal. And I'm gonna eat it. I'm gonna tell you what's good. I'm gonna sing and I'm gonna hum while I'm eating, especially if it's good, especially if it's seasoned good. But I'm the seasoning. And that's what I bring to the table is the seasoning. That's critical for people to understand in the tax process. I've got people who ask me, why you? I'm not begging nobody to come work with me. I love to help serve people. I love to help educate, but I'm gonna tell you the truth. You ain't gonna come to me, and I'll tell you, you don't have to come to me. The difference out of everyone, the tax law is the tax law. The forms are the forms. The software does exactly pretty much the same that the software does across the board. Period. I'm not gonna lie to you. However, the difference is the customer service, the communication, the education. I'm big on customer service as a consumer. So because that's the type of consumer I am, I make sure that I go above and beyond to deliver decent customer service. Now, I don't always hit it out the ballpark, but I ain't afraid and ashamed to raise my hand and apologize when something is off. And it was something that I did or my firm did. I don't have no problem doing that. That is professionalism. And we don't all get it right. And I pray that somebody else gives me grace and mercy like I try to give people grace and mercy. So trying to think, that's really what it is. I've always been virtual. Even before virtual was virtual. I like the whole portal thing because I like to take my time and divulge and get into the data, right? And spend time with the data so that I can present it. I'm listening to myself and thinking, all of this stuff is because as an auditor, we would go out, take the audit plan, go and do the interview, which was cool. Like the interview process was great. Take notes, come back and write up the working papers, We spent a lot more time writing up the working papers, and most of our time was on writing the report. Y'all have no idea how long it takes to write audit reports for federal government. It's not fun. It's a terrible, terrible process. Like, the audit can be done. We could be in report writing for months. It's just not cool. But going out in the field, interacting, seeing how stuff operates, then coming back and assessing it and seeing where the loopholes are. That's how it works. And so that's what I love to give me the data. Let me spend time with the data, assess it, and then come on and let's have a conversation. That is actually why I run my firm the way I run my firm, is because it's pressure sitting there. You sitting there watching me and you like, well, I could have did that at home. Yeah, the difference when you're working with a tax pro, I'm not going to tell you you can't. If you know your forms and you know how to work through your software, you can definitely key stuff in, but you're not aware of where there's things that could be asked, or are there other tax code loopholes? Are there other things that you need to account for? Do you have everything? Are there strategies? It gives way for another conversation. It allows, tax prep gives me the opportunity to go and take you into a tax plan, because I can actually look at your numbers. I can actually look at your bookkeeping, and I can actually see how you run and stuff. So we can have a true conversation and figure out where you are and where you want to go. So yeah, that's a long way to get to frequently asked questions that people ask me. Really basic. How much does it cost? How long I've been doing it? How long I've been virtual? What are the key questions that people want from the technical side of the house? And why I love this. I do. I absolutely love it. I want business and entrepreneurship, the good, bad, and ugly, to be normal conversation. Like, we need to normalize that. Like, everybody's talking about pop culture, or what's the latest song, or what's the latest trend, or who got the latest outfit. And I also want tax to be a normalized conversation, because it is a normal process. You pay sales tax, you pay locality tax, you pay tolls, which is a type of tax, you pay payroll tax if you're a business owner and you have employees, you pay personal individual income tax, you pay quarterly estimated tax. Like, you pay taxes is not going nowhere. That's how we fund our infrastructure. So it needs to be a conversation that is normalized. It needs to be a space where people consider how it impacts the price, right? So be like, well, how much does that cost? 99 cents. You need to automatically be like, oh, okay, that's 106, 105. Like, depending on where you are, I'm in Maryland, 6%, right? Sales tax. So we gotta do a better job of rounding that thing up and making it be second nature. I'm gonna share this last tidbit and I'm gonna be done. I was talking to my husband and we were talking about how to advanced child tax credit is working. We do our own taxes, right? My husband got to fill out an organizer. I got to fill out my organizer. And our 5-year-old says to us, well, what's a child tax credit? Y'all, my eyes lit up. 5 years old. Like, you don't think I don't know why we don't think that they absorb so much, but he asked me what the child tax credit was, and I got to give him an explanation at a 5-year-old stance for him to understand it. And he could repeat it to me. And he could repeat and understand there was an advanced child tax credit, and that the child tax credit has always been on the return. It really is a personal dependency exemption. They just took some of that away and then combined it elsewhere, right? Because we used to get exemptions for your spouse and your kids, and then you would get credits depending on the number of kids you have, et cetera. I know y'all are like, womp, womp, womp. But the fact that he asked because he heard the language, that's what I'm talking about normalizing. He's 5. Us talking about taxes and money, because both of us are entrepreneurs, is going to be a different mind frame and stance for him, because the terminology is going to be different. So now the next terminology I got to get on is understanding this investing space, so that it becomes normal for my children to hear the language, hear me getting educated, hear my husband getting educated in that space, and it won't be foreign to them. There's a lot of things that end up being foreign to people just because we don't learn the terminology. Y'all can quote the latest rap lyrics, know the latest slang, can do the latest TikTok dances, because that's whom you're giving your intellectual real estate to, right? People are like setting up shop in your brain. You know the latest gadget. I'm team Android, but it's like I probably only know how to do 10% on the phone. Truly, 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 think about what you're giving your intellectual real estate to, so that you can have a space, right, to be able to build for now and for the future. For now and for the future's future. Because that's really what the Bible tells us to do, right? You're supposed to leave an inheritance to your children's children. So you got to think about what you're going to get now. And I'm not saying don't ball out. Enjoy what you can. Please do. But also think and consider about what 2 generations from now are going to look like. We thinking about it when it comes to the environment, but let's also think about it when it comes to finances. I know this got deep. This is my podcast for this week. Frequently asked questions that people have been asking me, definitely asking me right now in this tax season. Ask me every tax season. That's how I operate. If you have any frequently asked questions, or if you have anything that you're curious about that I didn't talk about, that you're like, oh, I thought you was going to talk about this, definitely post it in the comment. You can post it in the comment on Apple Podcasts, where we are, Google Podcasts, where we are. I got to check to see if we're on Spotify. I know we're on Apple, and I know we're on Google, and we're on the YouTube, y'all. So check out our page on the YouTube, and you can leave comments down below. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you want to hear more about. Tell us if it's somebody you would like me to interview. I have some clients, y'all. I have some clients that I'm excited for some of the topics we're going to be able to interview with. You have an entrepreneur who's up and coming. You have somebody who's established that you think it would be a great conversation between myself and them. Let me know so I can reach out to them, because I would love to have a talk with them. And I'm sure they would appreciate a talk with the tax cop. All right, so that's the podcast for this week. I got some things I got to go do. Like I said, I got some videos I got to go make for some people. I know that I want you to know that I appreciate you for thugging it out, hanging out with me, listening to these podcasts. We are already in March. And like I said, I'm committed to show up every Tuesday at 8:00 in the morning so that you could hear Talks with the Tax Cop. Talk to you soon. Peace.